Good morning. Welcome to the Brew. I am your host, Lex, and today is Friday, one of my favorite days because we have Paulina and Molly on the show this morning. Today, we are going to talk about some of these billionaires who are selling off shares of their stock. What's going on here? Let's dive deep and figure it out.
Hello.
So cool to have that keep going for a little bit.
Okay.
I know we're going to get there. I swear. Hi, Paulina.
Good morning. Hey, guys.
How are you?
I'm doing well. Excited that it's almost the weekend.
I know, right? I know. I love Fridays. Fridays make me happy because you guys always have smiling faces, which I love. That's awesome. So,
Only when you're on the screen.
oh,
Lex.
stop, Molly. Behave. Okay, Paulina. So I know we only have a little bit of time. What is going on here? So first of all, let's tee up the topic, right? I said it in the opening. Some of these big guys who own these big companies, all ones we know and love, I think, they're selling off some shares, right? So what's happening?
Yeah, so over the past month or so, we've seen executives at big companies like Meta Platforms, Amazon, and JP Morgan. They've been selling off their stock, and they're doing it all at the same time. So I'm sure many investors may be wondering why they're selling off shares and why they're doing it concurrently. And what does this mean? Do they know something that we don't? And I think it's important. This caught my eye personally, because if you think about, these executive CEOs or, former CEOs, they're the ultimate insiders. They know a lot that's going on behind the scenes that maybe a common shareholder isn't privy to. So it's always important to pay attention to their stock trades. Mm-hmm. So I thought it would be an interesting topic to explore.
Yeah. I know. Well, you guess what you're going to have to deal with. You're going to have to deal with Miss CT down below here. So it's coming. I'm going to give you the softball, but it's coming. Yeah. So I haven't really, I'll be honest, I have not looked into this in depth as to why they're doing this. I'm not even sure I could find out why they're doing it even if I wanted to. But you said Zuckerberg sold a bunch of stock in 6 pre-scheduled sales, right?
Right.
Bezos sold about 2.4 billion in the past month, I think. And then this is the most surprising to me, I think. Jamie Dimon, his first sale of JPM stock ever. Isn't that right?
Yes.
Ever. That was $150 million, which, relative to these billionaires is pocket change, I would say. But so do you have a thought on what's going on? Is it a lifestyle thing? What's happening with these folks?
Yeah, so there are a bunch of speculations around why these billionaires are selling off their stock. And some assumptions are, it's an election year, and during an election year, there's always some stock selling given the uncertainty around the elections. Mm-hmm. You also have a lot of other things that are happening globally, such as geopolitical tensions, mm-hmm. and that obviously creates a lot of uncertainty around, wars and what the outcomes of those wars are going to be, and how investments in different countries around the world might play out or not play out. Mm-hmm. That's one avenue. Another avenue, which isn't as doomsday, is tax breaks. So, for example, Jeff Bezos, he is going to be relocating to Florida, and there's speculation around his stock selling could be because of the benefits that he would be getting from taxes. Mm-hmm. Another pretty rational explanation could be, after a really strong market performance in 2023, these executives are just profit taking, and they want to secure some of those gains that they had after a really strong, Amazon stock performed very well. Meta stock soared to incredible heights. And I believe JP Morgan stock as well had impressive performance. Mm-hmm. But then you have kind of in another camp, people speculating, what if they believe there's a tech bubble that's been forming? What if they want to get out before it bursts? Maybe they think that there's an economic downturn that's on the horizon, even though data has been relatively resilient. Again, pointing to that question, do they know something that we don't? So there's a lot of different scenarios and assumptions that are out there, and those are some of them.
Okay, interesting. Mal, what are you thinking over there? Your head's going. I can tell.
Yeah, it's one of those. If you are a CT scanner, it's easy to just grab and bite into. But I think a lot of it could just be. Do you want to know what my real truth? I mean, before I go off on that, I really do think that they have been trying to. When the market tanks, everything goes on discount. Everything's on sale.
Mm-hmm.
And so there's been a lot of doom and gloom. Market correction is coming, and it just hasn't happened. And so if you were going to be a theorist about it, then could you try to tank the market in a small fashion so that everyone follows suits? But when you look at Bezos, he's approaching 60, could be retirement stuff. Jamie Dimon's approaching 70 years old. It could be tax plan, just retirement planning. It could be just, when I think the thing to follow is Form 4. So when someone is about to sell, they have to file that, and it's public knowledge. And I know in prior shows, Lex, you've actually really talked about this, that planned sales, and to not read too much into it. What's your thoughts on that?
Paulina, correct me here, but I don't think these are, except for Zuckerberg, he had 6 planned sales, right? Otherwise, these were out of the blue. So what they typically do, and I forget the SEC number, it's like 150C, and I'm totally making that up, but it's a scheduled sale of stock every month, not necessarily in perpetuity, but for whatever the schedule is. And they sign up for that so that it doesn't look like insider trading. Right. And they do it whether the stock is up or down, it doesn't matter. They just sell it on the middle of the month, every month, a certain amount. And that, that's clearly for liquidity, and these people who have a lot of money that's tied up in stock that they can't really use it to spend to run their lifestyle, right? And it's usually on a fraction of their net worth, I suppose. And these numbers are probably a fraction of their net worth as well, right? 2.4 billion for Bezos he's worth almost 200 billion, I think, right? So that's not that much. I forget which one of you guys said it now, but one of you guys said maybe it's, the market has, I'm dumbfounded by how much this market has gone up and how fast. And maybe these guys are just like, hey, this is goofy. Right. I just need to get some off the table because I've never seen anything like this. And they're handing me, this valuation right now, more than normal. I don't know.
In the same regard, when interest rates were nothing, I don't want to buy a house. Maybe I should just buy a house because this is crazy.
Yep.
It could be a war chest. So Jeff Bezos could be purchasing, he's bought a newspaper. And so he could be just, the three moments of selling the 2 billion. It's why not do it all at once? There could be, it just could be a trading issue. He couldn't liquidate all at one time. Yeah. So there could, and that Lex speak to that. So just, for people beginning and they're kind of just looking at, so why wouldn't, if someone has 6 billion locked in, what are some reasons they couldn't just liquidate their portfolio all at once? I know, rhetorical question, but just in case.
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, Pauline, do you have any thoughts on any of this stuff with the big boys here?
Yeah, I think the market argument seems pretty intact, I would say, because even as the market continues, even after the massive run in 2023, it continues to go higher. The S&P recently just locked in a new all-time high, and you have the AI-fueled trade doesn't seem to be calming down, and this is causing retail investors, everyday investors, to continue buying up in what we like to call the FOMO trade, fear of missing out. So I think maybe these executives are potentially seeing an opportunity to lock in some gains after the market continues to just keep going higher. So that's kind of the rationale that I immediately go to.
Yeah. Okay.
One thing you could look at, you mentioned geopolitics, Paulina, and if you look, the way to predict war, if you're to see what the insiders on war are doing, is to see which companies are repurposing their factories into military infrastructure. So that would be a good idea. Things to look for are, some car companies and just a search would be great. And let us know in the comments if you want us to do a show on that. But I think I've also seen, I'd like to know what both of you think about the next COVID lockdown quarantine. Do you ever see that happening? And is there a prediction? I know they've talked about, this isn't the last we've seen of this. And I think people are, the sentiment I get is that people are not going to stand to have a full shutdown again.
Yeah.
But what's your take on that? And do they foresee something we don't?
You want to go first, Paulina, or you want me to go first?
You can go first.
Okay, this is so fun. I don't think we're going to see another one of those lockdowns. I don't
think so either. Yeah,
I don't think so. I think we've, we didn't know what we were getting into when they locked down. We didn't know if that was a good idea or a bad idea.
Or did we, Lex?
I don't know. I mean, it was scary. I will admit that. I was scared for folks, and I wasn't necessarily scared for myself. I didn't think it was going to be an issue, but I was scared. It was kind of scary because it was crazy. But now we know what we know, and I don't think they're going to do that again. I really don't. Yeah. I'm not even sure we'll go to a mandatory mask, sort of thing again.
Right.
I think it'll be like, hey, it's on you. It's optional. Do what you want to do. If you don't want to get sick, don't go out. But if that's it, it had a big toll. I think on the economy. We know that for a fact, and the government spent a what load of money on
80+% of all circulation was printed and not printed, let's not say that, was infused into the economy in that time period alone.
Right. Yeah. No, it was crazy. Yeah. By the way, how did we get on this topic from insider sales? But we're talking about COVID now.
Well, because we're trying to figure out, are they pulling out of the market because some tragedy is going to happen?
Oh, I gotcha. Oh, yeah. I don't think they know that. If that's the connection, I don't think so. I think it's more of what Pauline and I were saying relative to this market. Honestly, someone asked me on a podcast the other day about the market. I said, I told the guy straight, I go, I've never seen anything like this. This market, it fends off bad news, good news, no news. It just keeps grinding higher. I've never seen anything like it. If you look at a chart from, I want to say, late October of 2023 to now, it's literally straight up. There's a one little section in there that it kind of pulled back just barely, relatively speaking. And I mean, God, the S&P or the spiders have gone from what, Paulina, 490 to feels like 510 or something like that. It's insane.
Yeah, there's a lot of optimism in the market. Sorry, and people are really honing in on the economic data. Of course, looking at the Federal Reserve and what they're going to do with interest rates. And even though there was an expectation in the beginning of the year that there were going to be around 6 rate cuts, that has kind of right-sized to fewer rate cuts, and still the market is responding in a positive way. So yeah, it's a really interesting and doesn't really have an explanation. For it.
It doesn't, because we're still fighting. Sorry, Mal, we're still fighting some inflation, right? I know it's gotten better, but we're still fighting that. Unemployment probably isn't in the perfect happy zone yet, but I like I always say, I just from a sheer qualitative, just kind of a look and feel, I go out a lot. I go to the grocery store every day. I go to dinners a lot. It's packed everywhere. You try to get a plane flight somewhere, basic economy is $500-600. And yet it's just people are like, hey, I'm in, let's go. It's amazing.
Right. I think it's really important to understand what causes a market crash. So sometimes if we're just getting in, we think of, an analogy would be, your crops just dying and now you have no asset, but really it's just a transfer of wealth. So and some of the causes, and you add to this, Lex and Paulina, some are, investor psychology, which if you see someone jumping ship, then everyone will jump ship. And then other terms are, economic components that might feed into that. But
yeah,
isn't it interesting that the increase and rise in retail investors and everyone's sort of eyes on and doing their own research, and they're not just taking what that box on the wall is telling them to do. They're making their own decisions, I feel, more and more, and possibly less market manipulation in the investor psychology front. What's your anticipation? Maybe this is a new era. Maybe this is a new steady market that we might see going forward as people are more educated.
Yep.
Yeah, I think that people are definitely doing more of their homework, and they're doing that because they're trying to find where the opportunities lie. It was in tech the past couple years, but now I feel like that tech trade is being more nuanced for the cloud, semiconductors, and you're seeing that specific industries within that sector are really accelerating. So I think it's just the matter of Wall Street and investors trying to find more opportunities that didn't exist before. And I think that a perfect example of that is NVIDIA and how it kind of popped. It seemed to have popped out of nowhere, making its way up into the Magnificent Seven, which is the 7 tech stocks that have been carrying the market for the past year.
And they are currently building these autonomous barges out in the seas, which is they're trying to skirt some regulatory constraints and in the freedom of seas area. So check that out. But also, I think the other thing too is that people are kind of wising up, and they're with technology, and you can see what Bezos is doing ahead of time, and people know what Form 4 is, and they can follow some of these political insider trades on, like Pelosi and NVIDIA, and she just did a recent investment in Palo Alto. So also check that out. But I think that's one of the great, so there's this transparency we're experiencing, which is incredible. We have journalism on the front lines that is not part of, maybe a bigger conglomerate. So that might be finding things under the rocks. And we also have an eye-opening of politicians. If they're going that way, they might know something, and the CEOs are going this way. So I just feel like with technology plus creates this great transparency, and then the trifecta of humans doing their own research and really putting their due diligence into their investments is this really incredible time that we're in. And then just sprinkle on top of that option trading, where you can really protect your downside with some of these incredible tools. And it's a new future. Yeah, I think it's great.
I think it is. I think Paulina's got to run. But before she goes, real quick, I looked at the spiders. I misspoke, by the way. I want to just correct it. Over the last 6 months, it was up a modest, not really modest, almost 16%. Okay, over the last 16 months. Over the last year, it's up 30%. The SPYs.
Wow,
18 points. It's amazing, just amazing.
Does zero DTEs affect that at all?
I don't think so. No, I don't think so.
Okay.
I don't think directionally. No, I think this market's insane. I just don't get it. But anyway, Paulina, thanks for coming on. I know you got to run. Have a great weekend.
Thanks, Paulina.
Yeah, and I might be sniffing around the stock sales just to see what I can dig up. We'll see what we have. All right.
Good. I'll catch you guys next week.
Okay. Have a great weekend.
Bye, Paulina.
Bye, Paulina.
Bye.
Oh, hi, Mal.
Oh, hello, Lex. So what do you think?
I think it's good. I think this stuff is always interesting. I'm always of the belief, though, I'm not as sinister as some. Yeah. I mean, I don't think they know anything. I really don't. I mean, they get in so much trouble if they did, and that's why they have to plan these sales, right? So I don't know.
Or
If it were me, I would, I guess I would do the same thing at various times in my life.
I would too. I really do think, and I'll probably get shot for this, but you know, Bezos, I really don't like to demonize CEOs. If they provide a really incredible service and they do something great, then support them. And by the way, if you have a problem, go start your own thing. It's
Right.
it's a free world. So I really don't like the demonization of these guys just because they get big. That is
Right.
just has to go away.
Hey, someone's got to get there. Might as
Yeah.
well be me. No. it
And
won't
by
be.
the way, how many businesses flourish around the big guys?
I
Let's talk
can't.
about that.
Think about what Amazon has meant to so many small
Yeah.
companies. I mean, it's just it's monumental. But
And again, you can
another
buy
time.
locally on Amazon and eBay and all these companies. You can support your local that you would have never known about because you only take that one street to your coffee.
That's right.
So I think one thing to look at, we might want to do a whole episode on this, is the consolidation of banks that are approaching. So
Okay.
we have a huge commercial real estate failure, a possible failure approaching, and a lot of maturity dates are coming. And how are they going to renegotiate those contracts? Can those office buildings be repurposed into data centers? I know it's a little bit tough with converting them into living spaces, but that's a huge, as far as Jamie Dimon goes and what his sale, he might, I don't see Wells Fargo doing really well. Again, I'm speaking, I don't quote me on that, but it seems like there's a huge consolidation coming, and we should just map that out. And
by the way, you reminded me of something. Jamie Dimon has been pretty bearish too. He's said a few things earlier in the year and maybe even late last year that he thought we were going to have a reckoning of sorts. Now, I'm not sure you said a crash, but I think he was fairly bearish that there was going to be a pretty good market pullback, which we haven't gotten. So maybe that's, for him at least, he's been so darn bearish. He's like, okay, I can't take it anymore. I've got to sell something. I'm really bearish, and yet the market keeps going up. I'm getting out.
Yeah.
Something.
Okay, now let me ask you a question. What components must take place for a market correction? What are the variables that need to be on the table for a market to tank?
Look what's happened over all the big crashes of sorts. I mean, it was a single sort of event. Maybe not single. Maybe that's not fair. But the 2008 crisis was, a real estate thing, right? It was leverage on that one. I mean, you weren't even around in '87, Mal. So my God, you
yes. Oh, I know. You have to remember. I remember that it affected my mom. Was big in real estate. She flipped homes, and so I lived through that whole thing. And it was a big deal. And of course, I'm in Hollywood, so we didn't feel it like New York did.
Right.
But it was a big deal.
That was the most terrifying one. I lived through the '87 one. There was one in '92. There was probably one in the late '90s. There was obviously the towers on September 11th, 2001. That was terrifying. But '08 was, to me, I mean, the '01 was horrible, obviously. But the '08 one was really a tough one, I thought. That one scared that one scared the bejesus out of me.
Yeah, and I think that created an entire generation that kind of, that's, you have this white coat syndrome when you go to the doctor, that the doctor knows all. And I think in prior generations, if you didn't experience World War II or the Great Depression, and you're somewhere, I think that started the next generation thinking, okay, we really need to keep our eye on the ball and see and survey our surroundings. So I think that affected a lot of this meme stock and retail trading that's happening now. You'll see that in some of the documentaries and movies that the people involved experienced the housing crash and create some of this. But
anyway, all right, we should go.
All right,
good talking to you as always. You have a good weekend.
What's around your neck? What's around your neck? We're all dying.
It's my Java beads. These are Mardi Gras beads.
That's cool.
You remember, I'm from New Orleans, so that's where I was born, and all my family is. So.
Oh, how did I not know that? Are you really?
I don't know. So I have all these Mardi Gras things.
Okay, you'll have to give us a whole instructional on bourbon.
We will. I'm pretty good at it.
Okay.
All right. Well, Mal, you have a good weekend. I will talk to you next week. That's a wrap. Here comes the
Bye.
bell.
All opinions expressed by Tradier Hub contributors are solely the contributors' opinions and do not reflect the opinions of Tradier nor its affiliates and or subsidiaries. You should not treat any opinion expressed by Hub contributors as a specific inducement to make a particular investment or to follow a particular strategy, but only as an expression of their opinion. The contributors' opinions are based on their own personal research, but neither Tradier nor its affiliates and or subsidiaries warrants its completeness or accuracy, and it should not be relied upon as such. Any trades or positions discussed or referred to by contributors may or may not be actual live trades or positions. Such information is not intended to be a financial or investment advice. Tradier Inc. is the parent company of Tradier Brokerage Inc. Tradier Brokerage Inc. and Tradier Inc. are separate entities with their own products and services. Securities products and services are offered through Tradier Brokerage Inc. Tradier Brokerage Inc. is an independent subsidiary of Tradier Inc., all rights reserved, member FINRA SIPC.